Welcome to another edition of Ski-U-Mah Weekly, presented by the Minnesota Lottery here on the Gopher Sports Facebook page. I'm Justin Gard from KFAN Radio and the Gopher Radio Network. Happy to be joined, as always, by the head coach, PJ Fleck. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing elite. Thanks, JG.
We are, unfortunately, talking about another loss in the Big Ten play. You guys go on the road, good game, weather delay, great final drive for you, great final drive for them. Then, obviously, you have the interception for a pick six. 31-17 is the final. When you went back and watched it, what stood out there?
Well, what stood out was we were up 17-16 with 2 minutes to go, and we lose 31-17, and that stood out, right? And we were not deep enough right now to finish a game like that, which we've proven. We've got to go back, make some adjustments, and continue to educate and get these young people, these freshmen that are playing, to play at a high level. And you know, that's challenging at times, but that's the fun of it. That's the part of it. That's part of growing throughout an entire year. But that's really what I saw the most. You know, I mean, it's disappointing, but you know, I think the team understood that, and you know, we are 3 minutes away from being 5-0. If you look at the Maryland game plus this game, so I know we're not 5-0. They were 0-2, and we've deserved to be 0-2 in the league. But we're that close in a lot of different areas with a lot of people who haven't had that experience to make up for that yet. So we'll get there. We'll keep our oar in the water, keep developing them.
A reminder, this show is for you. You can pop your questions into the comment section here on the Facebook channel, and we will get to those in just a couple of minutes after a couple more from me. You mentioned the youth. You're obviously trying to get a lot of young guys ready. Freshmen continue to show up on the depth chart. What's the most challenging thing about getting them ready to play week in, week out?
Knowing that they haven't played at all, and you haven't expected them to play because you wanted them redshirted, right? And so now all of a sudden you're dealing with, yes, they're playing, but they're possibly not ready at playing, and you know they're not ready to play maturity-wise, but they have to because there's nobody else on the depth chart. And so those are the challenges you have. But that's, like I said, that's also the exciting part. These guys, it might not be beneficial to them right now,
right,
and they might not see that growth, but that experience they're building is only going to help them in their future. But right now is what matters, and we have to do everything we can to put our team in the best position to be successful now. And I saw a lot of growth. I saw a lot of good things from our football team. I loved our effort. I mean, coming out of that weather delay and having that 7.5-minute drive, loved the effort. We got 4 takeaways on defense. I love what we did. We just didn't do enough to win the football game. From the outside, it might look like that, but internally, we didn't do enough based on what we have to win that football game.
And if you get one more first down on that 3rd and 4 and run the clock down even further, we're talking about, wow, you guys really put a great plan together in that rain delay because you never gave them the ball back, right?
Well, that was the biggest play of the game, in my opinion, the 3rd and 4. And if we get that, we at least force them for another series to either run the clock down or use all 3 timeouts. And if we get them to do that, now it's a different story. But we didn't. And then you want to, as a coach, you want to keep it, you're in field goal range. You want to make sure that you don't give that up. You don't want to throw an interception, right? And you've got to prevent away from that because that also stops the clock. Do you run the ball, keep the clock going, let them use one of their timeouts, and now they only have 2? There's a lot of clock management and decisions to be made in that time, and I thought our coaches did a really good job making that decision. I would have loved it to be 3rd and 1 instead of 3rd and 4, but we've got to make plays on 1st and 2nd down.
Here's one that I get. When you go through some struggles and the season maybe isn't going where you want for a couple of weeks, people always ask me, well, how does this affect recruiting? Do recruits watch this stuff? Do they care about this stuff? I have a feeling you can figure it out either way. You either emphasize, hey, we need you, or there's a lot of different ways you can look at it. So how do you make sure that the two remain separate?
Well, I think there's a balance, right? Because you don't want it ever to be completely separate, right? But I think the one thing, I've done this before, okay? And I think people have to go back and look. After a 1-11 season at Western Michigan, we had the greatest recruiting class in MAC history. And that class was the same class that took us to the Cotton Bowl 3 years later. Okay, so it's not about the 19 and 18 class. That every year is its own story. So they really don't have anything to do with this story. But they have a lot to do with the next stories because they can see their role in where they fit in offense, defense, special teams, and where they fit in this culture. So it's exciting times. I know it's not exactly where everybody wants right now. But again, we haven't had that where everybody wants in 50 years. And I know people have heard it over and over and over from different people. Trust me, I've gotten every single one of your emails. I've gotten every one of them, okay? But this is a process. You know, this is a completely new culture, another new culture, and another new head coach that does it a different way for these group of guys. And I always say it's very similar to having, 3 divorces in 3 years if you're a kid. There's 17 different parents. That's difficult for somebody to adapt to. It's the same thing with college athletes. And they need the consistency to be able to stay. And I'm proud of how hard they're working.
Last thing for me, and a reminder, it's a night game at TCF Bank Stadium, 7 o'clock, Michigan State the opponent. You had a front door look, a front porch look at what was going on at Michigan State the last couple of years with Mark D'Antonio, given your time in Kalamazoo. What stands out just about their program generally, but also this edition of the Spartans?
Well, it's a typical Coach D'Antonio football team. They're tough, they're sound, they play incredibly hard, right? And they do their scheme perfectly. When you talk about cultural sustainability, that system has been that system for over a decade now. Right, or around there, and that's why they've been able to sustain all that success, because there's not a lot of movement, there's not a lot of new cultures, there's not a lot of new systems coming in that they have to learn. They're every year they're reloading, they're not rebuilding, and that's when you start to see a lot of the teams at the top of our divisions having the success. They're not rebuilding, they're not having new cultures come in. It's the same culture reloading.
Dave is our first Facebook question, a conversation, a topic we've talked a lot about the last few weeks. Wants to know how tempting it is to remove red shirts, or how hard is it to remove
I wouldn't
red
say
shirts?
Tempting, Dave. There is nothing tempting about removing it. The hardest part is removing it because you know the kid's not ready to play, but you're forced into taking it away from them, because there's no depth behind that. We've talked about moving some wide receivers to defensive back. We're banged up at other positions. We got people not coming back for a while. So the tempting part is to keep it on, knowing that you might not get the result now that everybody out there wants. That's the tempting part. But then the tempting part this year is, the easy part, I should say, is removing it because there's no other choice. I'm not removing these because they're going to jump ahead of other people. I'm removing them because they're the only one.
Up next is Sue, wants to know, what do you feel through the season so far your team's strengths have been?
I think it's our resolve to continue to, I always talk about row the boat, right? This is what rowing the boat's all about. Everybody wants to jump out of the boat, sink the boat, drill holes in the boat, throw me out of the boat. I get it, right? And I've been through that before. Trust me, I've been through it, okay? Row the boat is a very lonely place without being a head coach, being a first-time head coach in your first year going 1-11, okay? But I would say the biggest thing, their effort, their resolve to come out and be the best team they can be every single day, and the energy they bring to practice. I love that with our football team right now. Do we have all the makings to sit there and be the deepest football team in America and the most experienced football team in America? No, we don't have that right now. Those days will come, but right now we're controlling now, and they keep themselves in the now, which I appreciate. And like I said, 3 minutes away from being 5-0. I know we're not. There's no moral victories, but we're close, and they have to see how close they really are.
Lastly is Andrew. You're going to have a lot of options, I feel, with this one, Coach. Which freshmen have impressed you the most so far this season?
There's been a lot of them, but even some of the freshmen have been banged up. Demetrius Douglas, I thought, started for, he's done for probably the year. Philip Howard was knocked out last week. So you're constantly also losing those reps to guys that they play the same position. So now you're on your third F, right, who's also a freshman, who hasn't taken those reps. He's been in the scout team the last few weeks. Now he's got to come over and now play, and be over there. So I would probably say one of the biggest freshmen that I've been really impressed with being in there would be Ken Handy-Holly in the situation he's been thrown into. He's another guy who's probably not ready to play yet, but he has to play. And I think he's one of the cases that I think I'm really proud of him. There's other guys that are playing the expectation that I thought they would. Nate Umler's, he's a true freshman on the D-line. You look at the two freshmen we have up front on the offensive line. The other team that has freshmen on the O-line is Illinois. How are we doing? Right? We're in the same boat right there, right, in terms of our record, but there's a lot of freshmen and not a lot of experience. So we're going to get there. I promise you, we're going to get there. This is something that I'm very accustomed to and know it very well, but I'm also very proud of the progress we're making.
You spent a lot of time in camp practicing at night for the first couple of weeks of the night game. Now you get another night game here at TCF Bank Stadium. What do you look forward to with that?
Well, I look forward to the top 25 team. 21st team,
now, yeah.
21st ranked team in the country coming into TCF Bank Stadium at night. We practiced last night at night. We do that every Sunday night to make sure that we cross off, practicing under the lights, catching punch, catching kickoffs, the receivers with the balls that they catch. So, we practice all that under the lights, and then we'll be ready to go come Saturday. But we're excited. Top 25 team coming in TCF Bank Stadium. Big Ten opponent. Michigan State coming back from the year they had last year. Just beat Michigan. It's a wonderful opportunity for our young football team to take advantage of.
We will see you there. Thanks for the time.
You got it. Row the boat, Ski-U-Mah. Go Gophers.
That's the head coach, PJ Fleck, here on Ski-U-Mah Weekly. When we continue, we'll talk volleyball. Head coach Hugh McCutcheon makes his Facebook Live debut. Stick around.
Gophers, Spartans. Kickoff is at 7 p.m. under the lights at TCF Bank Stadium. Tickets at gophersports.com.
Welcome back to Ski-U-Mah Weekly here, presented by the Minnesota Lottery on the Minnesota Sports Facebook page. A reminder, we will select our Minnesota Lottery question of the week, and that person will get a prize pack from the Minnesota Lottery. That coming up in just a couple of minutes. But first, a man who's much taller than me, much more accomplished than me. He's coming off back-to-back Final Fours with women's volleyball, and they're in the middle of another good season right now. The head coach, Hugh McCutcheon. Coach, how are you?
Good, thanks, Kazi. Yourself?
I'm doing okay. I'm hanging in. I have not had to be on the road quite as much as you guys have been the last few weeks. It's been pretty interesting. You know, midweek game in Wisconsin, which we're going to talk about. You started in Nebraska, went to Iowa, then you were just most recently in Michigan. Kind of an interesting couple of weeks for you and the athletes.
Yeah, we're learning a lot, no doubt.
How was the Wisconsin game? Everybody seems to want to talk about that Wisconsin match. Went down to the wire, 5-setter, pretty epic over there in the field.
It was obviously a good match. I thought it was really well played by both teams, and we know Wisconsin's good, and we know they're strong at home. So I was just really proud of our athletes, the way they were able to grind through it. I mean, it was a tough environment, and we were able to respond appropriately and make a couple of plays down the stretch. So, yeah, it was good.
The last time you and I had chatted, you had just lost at home to Michigan State. You were on your way to Nebraska, where you ended up losing 3-0 there as well. You know, what's the hardest part as a coach through a stretch like that, where it's two matches? It's not like the season is over, but there's obviously some things that you want to clean up. How do you keep them moving forward?
Well, obviously, there's some doubts that can creep in, and the most important thing, I think, is to just maintain some perspective. You know, the goal is to be good in December, and it was the beginning of October.
Yeah.
And so, the lessons we can learn now will hold us in good stead as long as we can apply those lessons. And to our athletes' credit, I think that's what really happened is, we saw some weaknesses that were identified, some things that we needed to shore up, and we're able to put them in place moving forward.
In the non-conference, you also, go down to Austin, you go to Boise, you put them in some pretty challenging environments with a young team, and we all know that the Big Ten is a gauntlet in of itself. What have you seen from the young athletes? Have they progressed here? Have they gotten used to it? Are they accustomed to it? Are they comfortable with it? What do you think?
I think it's one of those things where you can talk about it all you want about how hard it is in the conference, but now all of a sudden you're in it and it's real. And I think that's the thing they're understanding is this commitment to doing it every play, every day really matters. And I think we've improved in that regard.
You mentioned the progression as the season goes on. You want to be playing your best at the end of it. If it was a percentage game, which I know coaches love, where would you feel like you guys are right now from where you want to be at the end of the season?
There are lots of, and I understand, as coaches, I said this the other day, we live in a state of perpetual dissatisfaction, but I think there are lots of opportunities for improvement. There's lots of things we can do. So it's really, how fast can we put those things in place? But I'd struggle to quantify it. But yeah, there's a long list.
A state of perpetual dissatisfaction.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, we enjoy the journey, but we always see, hey, we got to get this thing going here. Yeah, no doubt.
Part of the journey this week, a Wednesday match against Purdue, a Sunday match against Iowa, both at Maturi Pavilion, both available on the Big Ten Network. I'm curious, how much has that changed the whole dynamic? The fact that BTN has really seemed to invest in volleyball the last few years and a lot of matches on TV.
It's great, and I think it's a good decision by them. The fan base, the number of people viewing, it continues to grow. Big Ten volleyball is, I think, relatively unique in that the crowds are always really great, and so with the combination of the high caliber of athlete and the level of play and the things that are going on in the game itself combined with the fan experience, I think it makes for great TV viewing.
And it's are the rumors true that with Michigan State, with the loss that snapped the big home winning streak, you're prepared to guarantee another 40-plus match winning streak at Maturi Pavilion?
Yeah.
Starts Wednesday against Purdue.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, Purdue is the real deal. They returned a bunch of athletes from last year, and they've added to their roster with some very talented young athletes. So they're extremely physical, and they're on a little hot streak themselves. They're playing really well right now. So we'll see. But there's no team out there like them, I don't think.
One question from the audience here. Colin wants to know how much of your offensive attack and success depends on Sam Seliger Swenson and her On-point sets, Hugh. I like the on-point sets.
On point, yes.
Well, we talked about her a lot on our podcast that we've done. I think you said, no surprise when she showed up, we started doing really well.
Yeah, there's no doubt that Sam controls a lot of the offense because it's all going through her for the most part anyway. And so, she's, I think, learning a lot about how to control the rhythm and the shape of the ball, and as well as who to make the right choice at the right time, who to see it at what moment. But generally, if she's good, we're good, and luckily we're in a position to say that she's pretty good most of the time.
What midweek matches? When did we start those? Have we always had those?
I think in the last few years they started Wednesday Night Volleyball, and turns out it's been a great thing for BTN. They've done well.
It must have been. And now as a coach, how do you, because most people, you get in your routine of things, right? Like you play on the weekend, you travel here, and you've got, by the way, class to worry about as well for some of these students, well, all of these student athletes. So how do you mix that in as well?
Well, it's just, that's what we sign up for. And, it's happened enough years now where it's not a surprise. It's just another thing you got to get used to.
Thank you for making your debut here on the new Facebook show,
Yes,
Ski-U-Mah.
my
Hopefully
pleasure.
we can do it again.
That would be great.
That's Hugh McCutcheon. I'm Justin Gard. This has been Ski-U-Mah Weekly. Andrew was our Minnesota Lottery question of the day today. He will win the Minnesota Lottery prize pack.
Good for
We
Andrew.
appreciate that. Andrew was elite with his question today.
Well done.
Don't forget, we do this every Monday, noon, right here on the Gophers Sports Facebook page. Thanks again to the Minnesota Lottery. Thanks for watching.